this is my second part, responding to Liberal Mormon Musings, Eric LaRue, in his episode 3 on the Eric LaRue Doctrine of Entrepreneurship. He was addressing how the government, he believes, has better motives than the private investors do of profit. He claims that that those who are looking for profit don't care about ethics, creativity, or value. I'm sure this was some generalization. I would hope he doesn't believe that this is the case, because it's been shown in many ways that in a properly regulated economy that these things are all conducive to profit. If you're being ethical, your customer base is likely to be reflected in that. Again, I'm not saying that is perfectly how it always ends up. And certainly there are unethical people that make killings and such, and I believe that there should be, when and where you can have prosecution of unethical activities of any stripe. But I don't believe that profit as a motive inherently strikes down ethics or creativity or any of the things he pointed out as being sub. In fact, if you look at a great many companies, creativity and ethics have been kind of launched into the spotlight by the success of a great many endeavors. Now, I really want to stress this point as far as this idea of promoting the general welfare. It's really a super slippery slope to claim that the general welfare is being promoted, and he even talks about how that it would be incumbent upon him. He doesn't expect the government just to give him the money, but it would be incumbent upon him to enroll the government. I'm not sure what all he sees enrolling as entailing. I mean, he points out that it's easier than showing that he can make a profit, that he can provide for the general welfare, but I believe that really makes my point, is the fact that this broad thing, especially with things such as civil rights, the ambiguity there, and then a great many other things in law, that a great many people could just really go hog wild, as is even happening now. His whole point again on people being reelected because people have jobs. There are a massive amounts of jobs and bureaucracies and things that do get senators reelected for, and even in subsidized industries. That's why a great many elected officials get reelected, is because they are enabling these positions. But I don't think these are fostering entrepreneurship. In fact, if you look back to the Depression era, the actions of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he rather squashed entrepreneurship. Anybody of any size that was an investor needed all the money they could get, and just to stay alive. And so the idea of putting money back into the market or back into the system, when the government was threatening to reallocate it to someone else, when the government was broadly expanding their view of what the general welfare was and what it entailed and how they could reallocate anybody's property. I think this comes down to something, and I would really recommend reading this book. I hope in addressing this, Eric, that I'm not at all offending anyone. I know people get pretty heated about this stuff, and I feel deeply about it, but I don't want anyone to feel like I'm calling them evil or anything. But I hope I'm making my points and that we can learn from each other on this. But I would really recommend to read a book. It's available free online. Just type in The Law by Frederick Bastiat. Now, with a pretext that I don't follow every single thing that Frederick Bastiat says, but he was a Frenchman during the time, I believe it was leading up to the French Revolution, or perhaps during the French Revolution. But he wrote a book, or a pamphlet, entitled The Law. It won't take long to read. If you're a reader like, if you can read at the speed I do, and I'm kind of medium average, I guess. It took me about an evening, a couple hours, 3-4 hours to read through it. But it's titled The Law by Frederick Bastiat. And he goes through and he points out the purpose of government, the purpose of the law. And it talks about how protecting people's freedoms is one of the key points. And a key part to freedoms is people's ownership, whether it's intellectual ownership or property ownership. that their capacity to obtain and hold on to things is one of the primary purposes of the law. And when you take the law and you make it for reallocating those things without their decisions, without them choosing where it will be reallocated to, and I know you will say, oh well, the elected officials are chosen by the people, but that's really not. I mean, if you get 51% to choose what to do with the other 49%'s money, I mean, in theory, you could get, a majority siphoning away a significant amount of money from a minority. And I just don't think it's referenced as legal plunder by Frederick Bastiat, but I would really recommend reading that. It's a really good read, and it really points out a lot of key things. I would go back to some of the words that I read by Spencer W. Kimball, and of course this was before his prophet, and this was on the political end. But he pointed out that a capitalist system, and really as close to a capitalist system as you can get, which again would require the government to stop monopolistic powers, to curb moments where individuals or organizations gained status of an oligopoly or a monopoly, or such things as, basically breaking up any overpowering economic forces so that the economy really did remain free. But anytime you get into the government in the business of deciding what is and isn't good investments, and we based it on such arbitrary things, and as you clearly state, it would be easier for you to obtain money. I believe it would be easier for everybody else to obtain money that way too, and the amount of money output, it's got to come from somewhere, and the only way the government takes it is from us. Again, whether they're borrowing money, whether they're raising taxes, whether they're raising inflation by printing more currency, any way you go about it, you're taking money from others to give to someone else, and that not only does it smack of, at least to me, of injustice, but it just counters the entrepreneurship, because there's not the motive to invest doesn't have to produce results as much as it does. So again, I hope this remains in a spirit of goodwill and understanding. I don't believe things like this should get us to the point of arguing, especially since we're brethren of the same faith, and I hope that we can each learn something and understand things a bit better. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.